What is one of your favorite memories of your mother?
Oh, that's like which one of your kids do you love most questions. There's so many great memories of Nana. She was the first person I could speak to without being afraid of what I might say. I was in kindergarten. I remember coming home and Nana would have some milk and cookies for me and ask me about my day. She seemed so genuinely to care about what I had to say at such a young age. It's really hard to pick out a few of the great memories I have of her. She was kind, loving, hardworking, and took no shit from anybody. In a lot of ways, she was a woman's lib advocate way before her time. She had a strong, independent mold about her that became more impressive as I grew and tried to understand her more. I always remember our times at the beach and how we would turn into a kid in the ocean. We would bury each other in the sand. Every weekend was spent with family and how much we enjoyed her crew. They would talk and drink coffee and eat for endless hours, and I was able to catch a little insight in how her mind worked. The one memory that sticks out was her fierce loyalty. Whether it was a family or friends, they were never wrong in her mind. She often took a stand but was never one to scrutinize others for views that they held. One lesson I remind myself of constantly: the urge to know how someone reached a conclusion that they have. She was a tireless worker, and it was the Sunday school, church affairs, her family, her friends. She was like the Energizer bunny, never knowing when to slow down or stop.
Yep.
Lastly, my great memory is the bond that she formed with Mado Kachadorian. I've yet to see two people so intertwined in their lives. How the two of them were able to bring that feeling down to Harry and I. It seems at times that we thought we could occur to her, what would Mado do in this situation? It was a friendship of love and administration, admiration and love.
1978.
How did you meet your spouse, and how did you know you wanted to marry them?
Well, in January 1977, I lost my job in Chicago and had to move back to Worcester. Totally broke and disheartened, and not looking forward to having to move back in with Mom. A week or so after I got home, the Albanian American National Organization, ANO, was putting on their winter dance at Nick's Grill. Olga thought it would brighten my mood to attend, so I went. Sometimes during the evening, I'd glance at this beautiful girl across the room and went over to talk to her. She and a whole bunch of friends were talking snow skiing, so I jumped into the conversation, and we danced and had a good time. And she told him she was staying at Teta V's house, and I said out of nowhere, "You want to go to church tomorrow?" She said yes. It was one of the coldest days of the year, and the heat was out at the church. I thought we were going to freeze to death. We spoke several times on the phone, and every February the ANO held a basketball tournament in Southbridge. And everyone was going, so I went knowing full well that she would be there. God, we had a ball. I'll never forget, we tried to find a place to eat and found an all-night Greek diner. We were so drunk we fell asleep at the table. The next thing we knew, the cook was banging his pots together to wake us up. It was the time that weekend that we both realized that it was special and serious. The more around her, the more I was convinced that she and me were only together. Looking back, I decided to marry the sweetheart the moment I laid eyes on her. Something about it was calming and reassuring. And honestly, I thought it didn't get more quickly. And there, so it goes. At least we've been in love for 42 years.
What's the best job you ever had?
All the joys of being your own boss. I think the only time I've really been truly happy working is when I own my own restaurants. Freedom of being able to create something that truly reflects you, who you are, and what you are is something that not everybody can appreciate. In any position, one has to answer to someone or something. I found it far easier to be beholden to customers than one individual. When you're away from something or something for a long time, you tend to always remember the good times. What you don't forget is the financial burden of 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. You tend to forget being so tired at times you could literally fall asleep standing up. You forgot what it's like to deal with unruly customers, suppliers, and employees. When you're in business, it's nonstop. The daily obligation of having to be on your A game day in and day out. Always trying to prove the best you can. And oftentimes you can wear yourself thin or lift yourself up. The day before I opened Park Ave, your mother dragged me to some memorial at Boston Church. I was beyond pissed that we had so much to do. And I always remember being in a men's room and looked over to see Anthony Athanas standing next to me. Mr. Athanas was a legend in the food business, owning some of the most prominent restaurants in the Boston area. He knew me only as Aphrodite's son-in-law. I told him that I was opening up my first restaurant the next day and if he had any advice. He looked off and said, when you work 100 hours a week, you can't worry about one employee who's doing a good job, who isn't doing a good job. He told me he would sit the person down and tell him I was up all night worrying about you and you're affecting my business. You can't stay here any longer and you have to leave. I can tell you many times I've done the exact same thing and was surprised by people's reaction. At least 90% that thank you, they felt deep down the same way. You never stop learning.